Morning, everyone. Let's get the show started here in just a second. So I'm going to play our
Hello, I'm Steve.
introduction.
A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases.
All right. Welcome, everybody. As people join in tonight, I wish to thank everybody for being here. If you're new to the channel, we're going to, of course, on our morning watch show, we pretty well talk about a little bit of everything. But tonight, we're going to focus a little bit on uh, some work I've been doing on one of our cold cases from the Midwest. And the work that I put forward as far as trying to recreate crime scenes and some of the CSI work. And that when you look at and you try to evaluate certain aspects of a crime, what do you have to work with? How can you reconstruct that crime scene? And especially if you have images of the crime scene that has blood spatter in it. And we see that in a lot of cases. That you'll have blood spatter or you'll have all different types of evidence. And whenever you analyze those images, you're trying to figure out ways of taking and rebuilding it and creating similar blood patterns of an analysis so that if you get a case such as what we'll be looking at tonight regarding the Durante Martin case that happened in Fredericktown in April of 2021, the death of a young man, and law enforcement went and worked the case, and they came up with a narrative. The family, which I've been working with for quite a few months now, probably around a year or so, and the narrative that they were able to give me some crime scene images, which absolutely um, flipped the narrative as far as my blood pattern analysis and what the state was saying occurred, that it was self-inflicted versus a homicide. And so I'm going to look at and share with y'all some of the work I've done and been doing today in preparation of going up there and meeting with law enforcement and with prosecutors and try to get the case reopened for the family. And there's a lot of work that goes into this stuff. And like I said, I'm going to share some information with y'all and show some of the things that are happening as we move forward with this case and prepare in the coming weeks, because this is one of the cases I will be going up into the Midwest with and presenting the evidence to the law enforcement and to the prosecutor specifically on this case. I had met with them before, as far as the prosecutor, not with law enforcement, with the prosecutor, and so there's other testing that had to be done, other analysis that had to be done, and so now we're going to finalize that process and hopefully get the information that will reopen the case to them. But anyway, let's get into this a little bit, and then I'll show you what some of the work we've been doing. But anyway, this is a case of regarding Durante Martin. Um, as I said, he was a young player in school, athlete. His mother and grandmother absolutely have been advocates and have had a long fight for justice. And so, over the months and years that I've known them, and we've talked about this case, and they were able to get me that critical information, which was extremely critical. That we started looking at it and noticed blood pattern was not matching the narrative of what law enforcement had said in hearings. But anyway, they had an inquest, and there was a change of opinion in the inquest as far as the classification. That and it's still up in the air because they said it was an act of violence. And so, but that doesn't mean that they instantly reopened the case. And so the family, once again, were put into a corner, and justice was not being sought or wasn't being pursued. And from that information and everything that was presented and given to me is what has put us on this route. But anyway, um, the residents that we're talking about now, we're not going to be going into the persons of interest and suspects and all the narrative, but we'll be talking about mostly the crime scene. In the future, we'll be having some of the family members on, and we'll go into specifics as far as Durante life and what was going on that evening at the gathering at this house that was quite a distance from where his home was. And actually, I think it was in the next county down. And so the in Madison County, Fredericktown, which everyone is familiar with if you have followed the case along with other cases that have happened in Fredericktown, such as with Timmy Dees, um, Doug Teal, and there's another case I just got today of another family down there that we'll be talking about in the future. But anyway, what it was there was a gathering at this residence outside Fredericktown, just on the outside edges of it. And Durante was at this gathering, and for some reason, in the early morning hours, um, it was reported that he had caused a self-inflicted injury in an upstairs attic area. This area upstairs is not really so much as what we think of going into an attic. That you would have to, there's some cut out in the ceiling, and you have to go through and get into where the attic area is. This attic area where he was at was almost like a closet, that you went into a room and you open a door, and when you go into that door, it's where all the duct work, electrical work, and some open flooring that separated the ceiling from the first floor and the upper flooring of what the duct work was sitting on. And of course, this is where Durante, when law enforcement arrives, finds him. And of course, they process the scene, and was it processed properly, clearly, cleanly? Of course, that has led to some of the issues that we're looking at now with the images and how it was processed and the collection of evidence and the removal of the firearm prior to any photographs being made has all clouded the issue. But you go into this little closet area, and once you get in there, you can see where the open floor plan or the open, there's no subflooring down. You can only see where the ceiling, there's a hole here that in this image. There's other images that I have of the actual night during the recovery of and the locating of Durante in this area. And of course, this hole wasn't there at that time. This hole was made on a second visitation by the Missouri Highway Patrol that went in there and processed the scene, removed that ceiling tile so they could take photographs of some blood spatter in that area, which was extremely critical in the processing of what we're doing regarding this case. But anyway, in this area here, the area we're talking about, there's if you visualize somewhere between the size of a twin bed and a queen size bed, this is the area that's in this location. It's not overly large, but several people could stand in this area, and this framework or the woodwork for the ceiling of the first floor, this is on 2x8s. And for those of us or those of you that are familiar with constructions of the rafters overhead that hold up your drywall to form a ceiling, this is what Durante was laying on. He was laying on his back um, and fully extended, other than one leg was slightly raised and sitting over next to the ductwork. But throat's still a little bit itchy. But anyway, I show you this so that you have a better understanding of what we're working with. So I went after speaking to the family, and I was able to go to the scene with the family and meet with the new owner of the family or of this residence. And the residence was being renovated. Unfortunately, we got there after certain renovations had occurred and certain cleanup had occurred, that this critical area that law enforcement photographed had been removed. Let's see, where is that? This area here that you see in the upper left-hand corner, that area had been removed from the house and had been thrown away. But I was able, from the same woodwork, from the same generation, from the same floor plan, I was able to recover some of the framework and even the electrical wiring that you can see here on the left in the top left-hand picture. And so what I did was, is after I recovered that same woodwork framework from that residence, and I was able to rebuild a section of that flooring, which is going to be extremely critical for us to reconstruct where Durante was laying and how that blood pattern could be formed. And that's what we're doing here. As you'll see here in some of the framework, I've started to, I got a bunch of stuff laying around, but I was able to go, and this is pretty good size that you can see, that if I put in this paper liner in it, so that whenever I do introduce my passive blood flows, and that I will be able to create certain passive blood flowing impacts into blood pools and witness and how the blood spatters occur and how different blood patterns are created in this crime scene, and compare them to the images of not only when Durante was photographed at the scene, but also even when law enforcement went back and reprocessed the scene. And so that's why it was so critical to go up there and recover this lumber from that floor plan so I could recreate it and make it as accurate as possible. Even the wiring and this wood, this house had been renovated back in, I think, in the 1950s. And so this wood here is from the 1950s, but I was able to recover it um, and have its true dimensions. And the reason that it's so critical that we have the actual wood floor plan is that from this, we'll be able to position some of my mannequins in the exact locations and have used the wood itself as a scale, for the fact that when law enforcement went back to do the processing, they didn't include any type of scale or measurement devices inside the images. And like I said, we'll be going more in depth into that cases later when we're joined by the family and after the presentation to the prosecutor. But you, with this and having the actual wood from that location, I'll be able to use it as a scale. Plus, I'll be able to recreate, lay a mannequin there, and create these blood flows. And that's what a lot of the work I've been doing in the last month and especially even this last week of getting some blood in for the fact that is to redo this type of blood pattern analysis. It takes a large amount of the proper type of blood spatter, synthetic blood that I will be using. Um, I, I often use a blood um, um, that is reactive to chemicals. The blood spatter blood is a little bit different. It's a little bit different color. It's more natural, and it has the same viscosity as human blood, and it also has the that it reacts in the same manners when it has impacts. You can see the blood spatter to the left of the or to the right of this bottle, and that's from a couple of drops that you'll see, and you see the satellite and the spines coming out from a couple of drops. And this is how natural blood from a victim reacts whenever it hits um, a surface, a target area at 90 degrees. And I was checking it to see and make sure that it was consistent with what my training showed and I know to be a fact as far as what blood spatter should look like. But and so, but this stuff here I think is like $20 or $30 for 12 ounces. So um, and I've got to have about a gallon or two of this, so that's going to be fun. But that's part of the process. And but anyway, we'll be able to go in there. I'll be able to take that mannequin, and I had created in the earlier presentation for the prosecutor. I had went in there. Let's see. Let's take this off for just a second. And this is a recreation of the blood flow pattern of Durante. The entry wound, and we have to have in mind that in this self-inflicted injury, the entry wound was right here on the left temple, just right near the eyebrow, and it went through both temporal lobes from the left to the right, and also he had blood patterns that came out of his nose and down the side. But anyway, this is what we're going to be working with. And so for me to recreate this pattern and put this mannequin in the proper position on these, let me get back into here, in this proper position of laying on his back with his head elevated or resting on these rafters at a specific location, because I have images of that and I'll be able to do it. I'll be able to take this mannequin and place that head there. And so, but that's only half of the battle, because now we have to be able to create a pumping blood flow, just as what you have a cardiac output, the stroke volume of the heart, at what volume blood is pumped through the heart into the body that pressurizes the whole system. And so to recreate that blood flow, I had to go out and build me a mannequin that does that. And so not only was I able to recreate the floor plan, and I've got some that after I get this wrapped with the paper on the inside, I have drywall that I'll put a floor in, and then I will be able to put the mannequin on top. And once I position that mannequin, I will introduce a blood flow with a heart rate. And so I had to figure out, how do you create a heart? And this is the blood I'm using. I bought two different types of blood. I bought the blood spatter that from Searchy, that is a synthetic blood. And then I bought a non-Searchy blood that you see here on the right side, that while it has similar viscosity, it doesn't have the deep hues, and so I wanted to keep it as accurate as possible. So we'll be going with a higher valued blood spatter versus the other synthetic blood that, while it has similar characteristics, it does not meet what I want to show, because I want to match that crime scene as much as possible. And so I had to figure out, how do I build me a mannequin with a heart rate? So this is mannequin. All right, let me get back in. All right, let's remove him. And so here's our mannequin. You can't see a lot about it, there's this patch here. Under this patch, the entry area is located there from the entry wound of the injury to when that Durante suffered. Now, uh, he was found in a possession such as this, and so now I have to create a blood flow that will flow out this and come down, and it will create a passive blood flow down the back of the head, and from this area here at this lowest point, it will start dripping onto the ceiling tile, and that will give me my blood spatter. But to create that heart rate, this is my heart. And this is simply a primer bulb. I checked the volume. Um, the It depends a lot about the human or the cardiac output of different humans. Everybody has a different heart rate, different output flow, stroke flow, stroke volume of what their heart puts out. But typically it's somewhere around, I think for someone in really good health, it's like 2.3 ounces is what comes out of the heart at each stroke. But this here puts out somewhere around just over 2 ounces. So it's very similar. And so I'll be able to introduce the blood flow using this setup that I have and try to recreate and try to match that crime scene. But anyway, before we get too much further, go into comments. Junior Johnson says, only crackheads and paper boys are awake at that time. I had a cop stop and said that. He's talking about at 4 o'clock this afternoon that he wasn't going to be able to make it. Hello, farmer. Good to see you. And then we have Paula that's here. Mustang 65. Good to see you. See if I can get this thing where I can operate it. Mustang 65. BG is here. Charles, hello. How are you? Hello, Jill. Nat Detective, good to see you. Hello, Shelly. Happy midnight. Oh, Shelly has gifted 5 True Crime Web memberships. Thank you, Shelly. Appreciate that support. And see-through's here. Hello, Cryptex. Good to see you. There's Doodlebug. Boggy. Hi, Steve. How are you and the missus? Missus is asleep right now. The grandson is staying tonight. So they're in there sleeping, hopefully. Cyber Warrior. Yeah, I talked to Kimberly earlier today and was talking about trying to get all this work done because I'll be heading up into the Midwest in probably a few weeks, and I've got some work to do on the new case I was contacted on today, plus meet with law enforcement regarding Durante's case, Timmy D's case, and then I got to meet with Doug Till's family, with Karen, and then of course meet with this other family and meet with law enforcement and prosecutors. So I've got a lot going on even before I get to Iowa. So our first trip up into the Midwest is going to be probably a good week or two. Boggy says, thank you for teaching something, Steve. I don't know if I'm teaching or not, but there's a lot of things that we have to consider when you're trying to recreate a crime scene. It's not just getting a glass of water and throwing it against the wall. You try to look at it, and like I said, I was able to go up there, spend the time, go to the crime scene, photograph it, recover the wood, bring it home, rebuild the framework, did some testing with it, made a presentation to the prosecutor with the images and everything that we had, and the prosecutor wanted more testing done, and that's what we're doing. We sent it off to some other experts, let them look at it, and now this is the final stage of presenting it to him, and hopefully, like I said, it moves forward. Micro Kimmy, good to see you. Double Agent 205. This live is awesome. Thanks for your time, Steve. Thank you. Michelle Favors. Good's here. Good evening. Good to see you. Bama Sin, I was lurking but fading fast. Your mind amazes me with how you create all these tests. I don't know how amazing it is, but Mrs. Steve just stares at me and shakes her head sometimes. Because, like I said, it took me a while to figure out because there's a lot of different ways that modern medicine recreates a heart rate uh, and pulses, and then how can you control it? Because if you just took the primer bulb that's used for in the boating industry as far as priming a boat motor, that when you squeeze it, it'll shoot blood 5 feet across the area. But and like I said, whenever you recreate these things, what can I do to keep that blood from shooting in a stream across? And that's simply put a patch on it. The blood hits the patch and then starts the blood flow and creates that passive blood flow that you can see in the crime scene images. Of course, I can't share those crime scene images with you because I don't think that's something that I would want to do. And of course, the family has shared some images online and they're blurred out. But with the mannequin, like I said, with this patchwork, I'll be able to recreate that same blood flow reasonably, if not almost exact, because that's what we have to have. Shelley says, my phone stopped the live because of my low battery. You try to watch for both iPad and phone. Um, so he may not did this to himself. No, I do not believe so. Um, the blood spatter that is noted. Let me go into this. The blood spatter that is noted in this image, and let me see, right here, the top left image is, I've got it far enough away from it so you can't see the blood pattern and the blood spatter in this, but on that facing that you see there is where there is a large amount of blood spatter that has all the characteristics of back spatter. Durante had an entry only injury, meaning that the firearm, when fired, created the entry wound. Let's see, remove this. Created an entry wound, but there was no exit wound along the path. The bullet entered, stayed within the cranial vault of the head, and didn't exit. And with no exit, there's no forward spatter. So all the blood that's there is created either through back spatter or and through passive blood flows if the heart continues, or there's gravity that allows that blood to come out of the one open injury. And a lot of times with injuries, especially with um, from firearms to the head, it the um, orbital plates around the eyes and things are cracked and busted, and it'll allow blood to come out through the nose cavities, around the eyes, mouth, throat, and you'll have other blood flow patterns. And on his, which if you saw the actual images, it very close to this because I recreated every blood flow that he had on his um, that I could see in the autopsy and the crime scene images. But like I said, this is the blood flow that we're trying to recreate, and it comes down to the back of his head. All right. But like I said, the Let me add this back to stage. But anyway, the blood spatter uh, that's was noted in the images made by the law enforcement was that if you look behind me and to me, if all the blood spatter, if you lead, let's say that you're laying in your bedroom on your pillow, and um, all the blood spatter would be straight above your head to the headboard and was to the right and above. His injury is to his left temple. So for back spatter to occur and be projected, that is not the position that would allow that blood spatter to come above his head or to his right side, and with the injury that occurred to his left temple. So something has to change in the narrative to allow that blood spatter to occur. Is it was all that blood spatter that's above his head and to his right side created by a passive blood flow of droplets streaming into a pool? And that's what this whole test is about, is that I'm going to recreate and that passive blood pool below his head, because um, when you look at it and what the narrative is, that law enforcement is claiming that a blood drop can fall 7 inches and go into a passive pool of blood and create blood spatter 16 to 17 inches away. Some of them 12 or 14 inches, but 7 inches high. And as we all know in physics, something can't, without force, cannot um, create a higher output than what the input is, because there's nothing that is perfect in 100% transfer of energy or anything 100 plus. There's always an expense. So a blood drop falling 7 inches, you're not going to be getting blood droplets of almost same size 12 to 14 inches away. It's not part of physics. Or you're not going to be able to get some of the smaller um, um, satellites off a blood drop that are 14 inches away and are 7.5 inches high. It's just not part of the physics. And it's what people that um, some blood experts, and obviously we have people that have looked at this and they claim that the blood is from passive blood flow. Everything I know about physics, and I checked with another guy I worked with in Georgia, and he looked at the blood spatter, and of course, he agrees that what he sees does not fit the narrative of what law enforcement says occurred. And so, with this information, is why I'm recreating this passive blood flow to once and for all that, and show and say, now when I'm finished with this test, one or two things are going to be that occurs. I'll either come back on the show and I'll tell y'all I was wrong. That a drop of blood falling 6.5 to 7 inches can create blood spatter 14 inches away. I don't see that happening. Can it happen? We're about to find out, but I don't believe so. My initial testing I did today with the blood droplets falling into and this is um, just within 2 or 3 drops falling into a single pool. While you had some small satellites, they only went 4 or 5 inches away. So, um, am I confident? I'm fairly confident that my theory is correct, but we won't know until I complete this test this week, and I'm looking forward to this testing. Like I said, I got to order, I don't know, probably about 10 bottles of these, so that's going to be fun. I've got enough to do one round of testing, but I want to be able to um, recreate it more than once, for the fact that's part of science, that we have a known blood pattern that is photographed at the crime scene. I'm trying to debunk that blood pattern occurred and show them a blood pattern from a passive blood flow. Um, and then I'm going to recreate that passive blood flow. And they should be repetitive because if you can repeat the experiment, then it's not something that, and that's science, and that's what we want to do. All right. Let me get back in here. That's so funny. Hi there. Boggles my mind how you can plan out all these experiments, but frozen pizza is too much. Yes, frozen pizza is my nemesis. They were making reference to that. I cooked a pizza and I forgot to remove, for whatever reason, the packaging I had. The pizza was stuck to the cardboard, the little round ring, and I didn't see it. And so I cooked the pizza. And for any of you that have ever cooked a pizza with the cardboard on the bottom, it the cardboard protects the bottom of the pizza, and it remains uncooked dough. But I was able to rectify in my experiment. I flipped the pizza over, put the pizza on broil, and I did quite the job on broiling it. It was in a fine, crunchy, black, crispy, extremely crispy. John Carey says, Mr. Steve, you look like someone who makes ketchup for a living. Probably so. Farmer says, howdy, errands took longer. I'm glad you made it. Love to hunt. Good to see you. John Kerry says, Mr. Steve, you have no idea what you're talking about. That's all right, John Kerry. We'll see. Hopefully the government didn't waste all the years of training that I had. But anyway, please, Mr. Kerry, uh, share whatever experience you have. You can contact me at steve@truecrimeweb.com with your thoughts and any of your tests. I'm open to any of your arguments, absolutely, because if you know more about this than what I'm trying to do, um, like I said, I have the actual wood from the crime scene, and I'm going to recreate the best I can. But absolutely, I'd love to hear your thoughts and debating issues you have about it. I'll give you ever option to it. But like I said, just send me an email, steve@truecrimeweb.com, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Hello, Stacy. Oh, guys, don't worry about him. Either he's a troll or, like I said, he's taken up. Is he some part of this, or and it's no real big deal. Uh, and we should be challenged. That's the thing that I believe in. That if someone has an imposing opinion and they see something that I'm not doing correctly, or they don't, or they have a better idea of how to conduct a test, I'm open to it, guys. I look forward to it because, like I said, I want it to be as accurate as possible. Now, one or two things are going to happen from Mr. Carey. Um, Either it's going to be dead silence and I get nothing, or which is not a loss, or he will communicate with me and he may be brilliant and have some insight that will make this testing uh, even better or more accurate. So I really don't have issues when people come in and challenge me and or give me suggestions because I'm pretty open to that. And that is brought on from many years of experience and work that I've done in my field and in my career. There's, so we'll just have to see. But don't worry about him. It's no real big deal. Well, now, John Kerry, the Mustang's like the worst vehicle known to man. Are you kidding me? You can take as many shots as you need to at me, but be careful messing with the other guys. You know, that's not going to work out. Double Agent 205 says, Johnny's craving attention. Yeah, well, that's fine. I'm sure that his mother's basement has all the latest equipment to do um, everything that needs to be done. Yeah, love to hunt, love to hunt. Farmer. Oh, me. Cyber warrior. Where's Molly when you need her? Oh, I know. And sometimes my mods, and I love my mods, and but they take to heart more attacks on me than I do. Law enforcement is probably the best training you'll ever get for trolls. Every time you're on call, you're dealing with at least one troll. So every family has it. Uh, I've even had traffic stops where there's trolls in the car. Uh, they think they're helping the driver. They're not helping the driver. Or you're at a call and where there's been some type of crime committed within the household, and there's some troll in there that thinks that he's helping the homeowner. He's not helping the homeowner, and so I don't really worry about them too bad. They're keyboard warriors. Alexa, good morning. How are you? Phoebe, just because you have a mustache don't automatically mean you know what you're talking about. Absolutely correct. And but I'm looking forward to hearing from your email, sir. Oh, why are you here then? Do you not have a register to sign? That's all right, guys. Um, I looked that up, Mustang. I did look up, and there was a Brandon Rhodes that y'all were correct. And once y'all started saying it's true, it's true, it's true, that had had done a horrible act to his mother. And for those of you that don't know, there was a troll that was running rampant, not only on my channel but other channels, and um, and probably a close relative of Mr. Kerry, and but and he was um, trolling people, and so um, I finally had to ban him once he started attacking some of the community, and but after that, people started notifying me that this Brandon Road had caused harm to his family members, and it was true. Oh man, trolls are sirens. They are too much. All righty, guys. But anyway, like I said, I've got a lot of work to do this week. I've got to get this initial test. I've got to finish wrapping this board. That way, I'll be able to analyze all the blood spatter from this passive flows and either prove or disprove the state's narrative. But like I said, knowing physics and knowing the training that I've had with blood spatter, that and knowing that you can't have back spatter from an injury that's on the left forehead area of a victim and have blood spatter that's to above the head and to the right side of the head. And there was other characteristics about the area and the rotation of where the human body could have rotated to commit such a injury and create these blood patterns. But that's what we'll be getting into later. All righty. If y'all got any questions, absolutely throw them in here. But maybe, like I said, I'm looking forward to hear from Mr. Carey. Cryptic says, Steve, Kimberly Lotz contacted me after a video I made of Durante. I'm planning an interview with her and Erica. Excellent. Yes, any awareness you can bring to the case, absolutely. Um, um, I've spent time with Kimberly um, and at the scene. We did. They also have a documentary. I participated in some of the documentary regarding Durante. It's supposed to be out sometime this year. I thought it was going to come out in January. I don't know when it's going to come out. I don't know what role or what part I'll play in it. We did some filming, but absolutely, it's a story that needs to be out there. And I'm looking forward to the conclusion of this testing so I can have a better understanding. All right. Let's see here. That's dang. Alexa says, me. John Kerry, I respectfully disagree. Mr. Steve is highly qualified. I trust him. Thank you. That's very kind. And that's very kind coming from Alexa, who is an expert in her field. Hey, I had a friend of mine I used to work with that had a pacer. I remember, my goodness, what a vehicle. Uh, oh, me. All windows. That's too funny. You had a red pacer, you called it the tomato. Uh, Very kind of you, farmer. Love the hard science physics, Steve. You cannot go wrong with science. I don't believe so. Um, True Crime Web, do you have an opinion on how the clothing got in the creek in the Delphi case, carried over and dropped, or Rick Allen went back and dumped them there? There's a couple different options that could have been. It depends where while we do know, or I assume that what law enforcement has said, that the their deaths occurred where they were found. Could other parts of an assault have occurred on the other side of the creek and they escaped carrying clothing? Possible. Don't know. Law enforcement would know more. But if there wasn't any partial undressing anywhere else, and everything happened on that plateau where the Abby and Libby were found, then of course they would be more likely carried and tossed into the creek for whatever reason that the Richard Allen thought was necessary. Was there some type of transfer of evidence from him onto that clothing? He wanted to throw it into the creek to allow the water to assist in the deterioration of the DNA profiles, or to wash them, or just simply for them to disappear. Don't know, but I believe that the offender, if they weren't dropped in some type of flight, then they were put there by the offender. Steve, will you be using your dolls and making them spin around? Yes, I've got my mannequins. I've got my mannequins. I've got a bunch of them. I got 3 on the floor here, and the one I'll be using for the entry wound and creating that blood flow. Um, and there's other testing that we'll be doing also up in Missouri when I get up there in a few weeks. Do your new neighbors think you're strange yet? I don't know. I was out in the backyard today. Luckily, we got a wooden fence all the way around, and I was testing my. Let me get out of here. I was testing my heart pump with the head injury with water to make sure that we had a correct flow, and but none of the, you're sitting out there with a gallon of water and you're pumping it through this patch to create those flow pattern to verify if it's going to work or not. And so I don't know if any of the neighbors saw me. They didn't call me, or they didn't call anybody. They may just think I'm sitting out there playing with my dolls, as a lot of y'all accuse me of. But they haven't called whenever I had the mannequins out in the front driveway along the side of the road. I know they saw me out there with them. Farmer says, is it possible to name the test dummy? Sure. My skeleton that I use, he was Sergeant Waffles, um, Indiana Bones. So yeah, any of the mannequins y'all wish to name, throw them out there and I'll do it. Cryptic Steve, what are your thoughts about the blood at the Delphi's crime scene? Most of the blood is from Libby, not too much blood from Abby. Um, I'm sure that there's probably, I don't know um, what the blood loss was from each of them, but it's probably pretty similar. Even although Libby was quite almost double the size, but her movement and through the scene allows um, the blood droplets and the blood transfers and the blood pools to be seen over a larger areas due to her movement. Now, why didn't Abby move? I have no idea. Only the offender knows the dynamics of what occurred at that scene. Um, and while there's probably just almost as much blood at Abby's location, it's just that there was no movement that allowed her to go through the scene, contaminate, or transfer to different surfaces. But I'm sure that under her body or under those wounds, um, whatever the location of that injury, because the body will, um, you know, blood is just like water, it's self leveling. So, whatever amount of the body is higher than that injury, the blood will flow from it and flow out that wound. Or while the heart's beating, it can flow out that injury even from lower extremities. I just don't know the full situation. I don't know how much it was processed. I don't know uh, all the photographs um, of that was taken. I don't know any estimates that were made by either the law enforcement, coroner, or any of the experts that would have analyzed any of the blood pools, passive pools. But um, so while saying that there's not as much blood under Abby as there is from what was dispersed through the crime scene by Libby, um, some of it, like I said, her movements allowed it to be on multiple of surfaces that she's not lying in contact with. And so there's a lot of variables to consider there. I hope that makes sense. Alexa says, I agree, Mr. Steve. I think Richard Allen threw the clothes in the creek, A, for DNA deterioration, B, the manner the clothes were found seemed staged. Probably so. I agree. The um, and with clothing, some of the recovery, sometimes you'll see that when people are trying to um, hide clothing or otherwise, you can take a shirt, stick everything inside the shirt, and then take a rock, stick in there, and throw into the creek, and it will sink to the bottom. Was that effort made? Don't know. Could he have done that and then they uh, uh, came away from the rock? Possible. Could some of the clothing still be in that area of the creek on the bottom and being held down by a rock? Possible. Just depends on what articles are missing and how you could stuff clothing in there and weigh them down with a rock and complete the process. Harry Carey. Yeah, I forgot about old Harry Carey. Oh, Anna, good to see you. And that Alexis is correct. It's in the mind of the offender. What did he do? What visualize or uh, memorialization of it? Did he take photographs? Um, um, you know, what souvenirs did he take? Um, you know, the FBI made a large part of their initial of in their search warrant of Ron Logan's property with the belief that there were certain things that possibly could have occurred to photograph the scene. So there's a reason for that. Do shoes float? Some of them do. Some of them don't. Steve, what are your thoughts about the white van passing in front of the camera at 2:44 instead of the original 2:28 time? I, like I said, um, you know, what are we talking about? 16 minutes. Uh, I don't think that is that significant. Um, Law enforcement, I don't know what the setting was from one camera to the other. I don't know um, what the routine, if the power had been off between the recovery of one image and another. Was the uh, clock correct on one versus another? I don't know. There's so many things. We have gotten so many, and I've done the same thing. That whenever we set up camera or cameras traps, or if you went to a deer hunter's and you looked at some of their cameras or even some of the older security systems, um, you set those times. Can you be off a few minutes? Yeah. Um, if you got one camera, it's off 5 minutes one way. You got another camera, it's off 5 minutes the other way. You have a 10-minute difference. I don't know. I'm pretty sure y'all know more. Hello, Kimberly. Speaking, this is Kimberly Lotz. She is the grandmother of Durante Martin, of the case that we're talking about tonight. Uh, find unacceptable creators like Steve with experience cannot say the proper words without threat of demonetizing. Not a big deal. Yeah, see through says just means he was still there to see the van, in my opinion, but I think he was already across the creek. I still wonder why he crossed. I think it was more of a fight, flight. I think they fled, and that was a forced issue. I don't think that he originally intended to take them over there. I think that Abby and Libby forced that issue. Just my personal opinion. Uh, Cryptic, I think someone else said it also. A female with whom I communicate. There must be something to that. Some drawings show the asterisks directly on top of Abby. Um, like I said, the images that were sent to me um, of with the sticks on Abby, um, I don't know if they were photoshopped or not. I don't, like I said, I've never, um, I, only the people that were in the courtroom know because they would have had the actual photographs from law enforcement. But if the images that I got were truly images that weren't photoshopped or anything, um, the it's not so much of a asterisk, but they did appear to be placed. Anna says, Alexa, I'm official ripperologist. The British have had a lot of wonderful euphemisms. I can tell you about the British, Scotland Yard, and everything else. There's a lot of things they do about processing crime scenes that is years, decades ahead of us, and has been for many, many years. Even back when we were first going into um, uh, getting certified for a state certification for crime scene techs, of how they would come out and do the autopsy and the forensics on scene versus in our country, we bag a body and send it to a lab. They bring the lab to the scene and process the victim there, and that way you can make almost instantaneous evaluations of, oh, this is what we're looking for, this is what occurred, this is what we need. And in that one area is absolutely something that I wish that we did in this country. Kimberly says, hashtag justice for Durante Martin. Absolutely. Cryptex, what do you think of Ricky Davis knowing the boxcar? Um, now that Kimberly here, let's stick more with Durante Martin's case, and we'll talk about others later. But I appreciate that, guys. I would answer more and more, but with Kimberly here, let's respect what we originally was looking at tonight. But thank y'all. All righty, guys. If y'all have any more questions about the points on issue with Durante Martin, like I said, there's a lot of other stuff that we're going to be talking about in the future. Hopefully, this testing, everything goes well in the next couple of days. I've got everything built. I'm ready to move forward, and I will share with y'all what I can after the meetings with law enforcement and with the prosecutor again up north. Whenever I travel through, it's like I said, that's probably 2 or 3 weeks out. I'm looking forward to meeting with Kimberly again and making sure that the family's fight for justice does occur. But anyway, guys, I appreciate y'all being here tonight. And don't forget, I'll be waiting on Mr. Carey. If you're still here, sitting in the background, I'm looking forward to your email. But hopefully you can give me some good information. But anyway, guys, y'all stay safe out there, and we'll see y'all soon. Bye bye.